Good afternoon. I'm Counselor Dee Knutson. I'm going to chair our meeting today because our real chair and vice chair are unable to be with us. And again, we very much apologize for the short delay this afternoon. Technology is great if it's working, and just once in a while we have a glitch. But anyway, we are ready for business now, and thank you for being with us publicly, and thank you for watching us on Channel 16 also. We will start with our regular just agenda format, and we'll start with an update from the city clerk, please.
Thank you, and good afternoon, Sioux Falls City Council. A couple of things, actually some good news on tonight's regular agenda. There are 5 items, and item number 27, the first one, is actually being withdrawn by the request of the applicant. So it could be a very short meeting tonight if things go well. In addition, just to let you know, the Districting Commission is meeting and will meet again tomorrow at 4:30 here at the Carnegie. That's an open meeting for anybody who would like to attend. And they're kind of wrapping things up and getting things into a final format where they will make a recommendation and then bring several maps to a public hearing about 30 days from their final meeting. And then from there, after a couple of public meetings, it will come before the council. The council, of course, will review what their plan is, and you can decide to accept it or reject it and send it back. Here are a couple of the finalists' maps I wanted to show you. This first one here this is option D. You'll see the central district is the yellow, and then northwest would be, it's kind of a peachy orange, although the color doesn't come through all that clear. My apologies. Blue, it would be the northeast. It has actually it's a substantial change, and I think there's about 16 precinct changes with that map. So that's kind of a very different variation, something that we've never seen before in terms of what the central district would look like. In addition, if I could have Tamara change out the map. On option J, this is actually much similar to what we have now, where the central district is in yellow and center. There's not a lot of deviation from what we have now, and it's very similar to what we're used to looking at. And there's one more, which would be option K. And this one is kind of a combo between the two, where you have that elongated central district and running more north and south. And so if you anybody wants to attend those meetings tomorrow, you can certainly listen in, and then later, about a month from now, the public will be invited to come and participate in public meetings and give public input on what the commission is working on. And then just a reminder, the business day legislature is Thursday for those of you who are attending with Sioux Falls local Chamber of Commerce, and then also the Municipal League has their event Tuesday night and Wednesday in Pierre. And on that note, of course, we had our update today from Yvonne Taylor, and I wanted just to touch on a couple of items for you, if I may. House Bill 1196, which I think you have been made aware of now, is actually a concern to many municipalities, Sioux Falls being one of them. As Sioux Falls moves forwards with tax increment financing districts, those are used very judiciously in Sioux Falls. I think we haven't even issued number 9 yet, and so of all the cities, I think Sioux Falls has a very judicious use of those. But there is an attempt, if you will, to have cities have to get approval by the county and the school districts before they actually issue a TIF. And those hearings are going on in Pierre, and we'll monitor those, and I'll give you updates. In addition, House Bill 1145, which is in part at the request of our own council members, Litz and council member Staggers, there is a waiver for sidewalks, and there was just a clarification that both council members Litz and Staggers had wanted to bring forward. And at this point, there are 3 waiver categories, and they wanted to make sure that one which addressed the income level of the landowner was at $10,000, and I think what Councilmember Litz and what Councilmember Staggers had wanted to do was to really create more of a system long-term, so changing that language to a household income that is at or less than 100% of the federal poverty level. So that will change and be updated with every year when the federal government sends out those numbers. And we don't expect any opposition. I think the sponsors in the House are Cutler and oh, pardon me, she's in Councilmember Litz's district as far as her legislative district. But I think we have support there, and that should be up tomorrow morning for a hearing. So I'll let you know how that goes as well. In addition, Senate Bill 83, which is the act to prohibit smoking tobacco or carrying tobacco products in certain places, that is also a part of the council's legislative, our priorities and goals that we have sent to our delegation. That passed the Health and Human Services this morning in committee, and it was a 7-0 in favor of sending that down to the Senate floor for consideration. Public records, the Senate Bill 147, that has yet to go before a committee yet. That's also, I know, important for council members, and that is to go to the Senate State Affairs in the near future. I think that's all the updates I have for you on that. And I just wanted to say, in addition, I prepared a memo for you just to talk about, there's 2 executive orders that came out that may be of particular interest to the council. And I prepared a memo for you on that. One is about the capital improvements program that was rescinded, and then also just the appropriations budget. So if you have any questions, you can ask me about that later. Thank you very much.
And thank you, Deborah. Any questions, comments there?
Yeah, yes.
Yes, excuse me, Councilor Stagers.
I guess I do have a question. The mayor rescinding the CIP committee, I understand that it was because, this turmoil that we're having in the economy. Wouldn't it be better to actually continue that on to get a lot of different points of view?
Well, the reason, because of timing. We have to get those people together. We have 2 outside people, and with demands that's placed on them in their regular jobs, it's just easier because we found, for right now, we will work with the fiscal committee on doing it. And it just, with things that are happening with the stimulus bill that could come out, and I think that I did send you, my rationale for doing that. So that's the rationale for it.
So, from what you just said, it sounds like maybe informally we'll still have the department heads kind of getting together, maybe.
Oh yeah,
and
it goes on, and we have department heads that will be working on it, and we'll be working with the fiscal committee on it because it just allows us more latitude to make timely adjustments when we need to do it.
Thank you.
Regarding that topic, as far as the capital improvement plan executive order, just a friendly reminder, when I first went on city council, and a couple of you up here, including the mayor, went on the same day I did, but if I recall correctly, again, the capital improvement plan in my mind is very much an administrative role. It's a planning role for the capital improvement plan, and the city council was not part of that at the beginning because it's not our committee, it's an administrative committee. And then sometime down the road, I don't remember all the reasons, I think probably goodwill, gesture, whatever, the mayor invited, the city council to come for more information and so forth. But again, we don't sit in, as a city council, we don't sit in on the development of the operating budget. It's the same thing. I think we're comparing oranges and oranges there. So I'm just speaking for myself, but I have absolutely no problems with that executive order, and believe that councilors can get information on any capital improvement project from any director almost 24 hours a day. And anyway, so I just wanted to add my thoughts to that before that issue becomes bigger than I think it is. Because again, the city, and then more importantly than what I've already said, is the city council gets to vote on the capital improvement plan. We clearly can reject the whole thing if we want to, or we can make little changes. We end up not making very many changes, but we have the authority to. The buck stops with us at the end. So that's just a friendly reminder on that topic. And with that, the next item is Mayor Munson. Do you have anything else you'd like to share with us today?
We don't.
Okay. Audit committee, our Councilor Costello and Councilor Jameson are gone, and I believe the city clerk attended the audit committee. Deborah, would you like to share some thoughts on the audit committee?
Yes, thank you. If I could, just briefly, the audit committee had met Tuesday at 4:30. Was about an hour-and-a-half meeting. Went through a lot of reports. The internal audit has been very busy, and so we also spoke with Ty English, the partner in charge of the Eid Bailey, and that is the external auditor for the city. So the reports that were approved and you'll be hearing from down the road is the Convention Center Management Report, a special report on code enforcement. There were also some new audit reports that they approved, which was the budget adjustments, surplus auction, disbursements, and donated money. And that was it.
And thank you for that report.
Thank you.
Any questions, comments? Okay, I'll just move forward here. Is Fiscal Committee. Let's see, who can help me on that today? Councilor Benega.
Real simple, there's no report.
And thank you, and you told me to keep them in kind of short, and you're helping me. Land Use Committee, who could help me on that one, please? Okay. Deborah?
I'll take a stab at it. Actually, at the request of Councilmember Jameson, we had gotten together with Mike Cooper, and we discussed about zoning, and on all agreed, of course, the zoning works really well for the city, and there was just a little bit of tweaking that I think council members were looking at doing, and I believe I briefed you in a memo just recently that there'll be a change. I think they're working through, but it would look like that if there is a rezone or a classification of zone that would change in a residential area, that all of the applicants who would be a part of that, or all of the landowners who are in that area of land that would be rezoned, would be on the application, if you will. And so that's kind of what they agreed on. They talked about mailing, additional mailing or certified mail, a lot of different other options, but I think they came to a really great conclusion. I think those minutes are just about approved by the committee, and so those will be out to the public soon. Thank you.
Thank you for that addition. The next topic on our agenda today is Public Services Committee, and Councilor Anderson, would you take that for us, please?
I have no update right now.
Okay, and the only thing I'd just like to say from, I am a member of that committee also, as is Councilor Brown, is that I just want you to know that I haven't forgotten. I'm still working just on a very simple authorization kind of situation on, election ordinance that we had on the books for a short while, and we just have a little cleanup to do from the last election on regarding 3 reports, and that I'm just not quite there, but I haven't forgotten it, and just know that I'm working on it, and I'll bring it to you as soon as I can. And now we have public or open discussion, City Council open discussion. Would any of you have any topics for that, please? Councilor Anderson?
I've been looking into and attended a few of the transit meetings, and understanding that the management contract is going to be ending soon. I'd like to propose that we form a committee to take a look at different forms of management that other cities are doing for their transit. It's not saying that I want to go to a different form, but I think that we, deserve to take a look at the other forms that are out there and available for the city.
Okay, and I believe as far as the roles are concerned here, that negotiations or those kinds of agreements are done at the administrative level, not at the council level. And so, have you visited with the administration at all about this idea? Just because they handle contracts and then we either reject them or approve them, but that's usually their role, I believe, to handle contracts.
Correct, and that's a contract. All I'm saying is I would like to take a look at other forms of managing. That way we're more informed about this when the administration does bring either a contract to us or other ideals. And I just would like to try to be proactive on that. I'm not trying to get involved in any administrative parts of the government at this point in time. What we're looking at is just different ways to manage transit.
Okay, would any other councilors have any thoughts, or I just, this is the first I've heard of this, so I'm just wondering. Councilor Brown?
As long as we are not involved in the contracts, I would support it, because frankly, I've expressed my issues with the way our transportation system has been working. I think anytime we can look at other ways to do it better, I think that's valuable for all of us.
Okay, would there be any other comments? Okay, so then I will just assign that topic to the Public Services Committee, and I assume that would be, again, since the people over on 9th Street know lots about management around the country, I assume that we would want to also kind of learn what's out there already so we don't reinvent the wheel at a committee level. But I'll just assign that to the Public Services Committee then, with a couple of you expressing your thoughts. Is that okay with everyone?
Yes.
Is that okay with you, Councilor Anderson?
Yes, that would be fine.
All right. Anything else from anyone on that? The only other very quick topic I have for open discussion is just a friendly reminder that this Thursday, it kind of reminds me of transit, is that regarding the Green Committee that the city has going, and we're very much part of that. We're very much welcome to be as involved in that effort as we wish. And I know Councilor Anderson and I have attended meetings before on that. And it's this Thursday at 10 a.m. at the Transit Building. And I'm really hoping that at least one of our staff people will be able to go to that, and any other councilors who might still be in town and not at Sioux Falls Day at the legislature. So, and that's where I will be, so I will not be at the Green meeting. So would you just put that on your calendar if you're in town, and think about going to that if you can. And now we'll just go on to our presentations for, yes, Councilor Anderson?
I guess one more thing that I suppose I should mention.
That's fine.
I feel very grateful for being able to attend the inaugural. It was a wonderful experience. Last Friday we spoke, my friend and I that went to the inaugural spoke to 3 second-grade classes about our experience, and I hope that we can do that even more in the future. So I just wanted to say thank you, because if I wouldn't have been a councilman, I don't know if I would have actually had the motivation to go. But it was a wonderful experience, and at some time in the future I will bring pictures and everything and a slight presentation to the council.
And thank you for that addition also. And so now for our presentation today, we have the Director of Finance, Jean Rowenhorst, who will give us a report on the economic downturn and the contingency financial plans for our great city. And welcome, Director Rowenhorst.
Thank you. Gene Rowenhorst, Director of Finance for the City of Sioux Falls. I don't know how much we'll talk about the downturn. We don't have a real good crystal ball anymore than anybody else, but we will discuss a little bit about some alternatives that we have lined up with the city, depending on how things do change. On our presentation, we're going to be talking about the year-end results for 2008, because that plays into what's going on in the economy, and then we're going to do some talk about the contingency planning for a slow growth economy and what that means for 2009 and for the 2010 budget. First thing is December monthly financial report. We've added some columns to show encumbrances and carry forwards within a capital program, so they're attached to the report this time around. And there's 2 appendices in particular that are attached that you should pay attention to, or I'd recommend you look into. One is a summary of the results for the year for 2008 by department program, and that plays a big role into our program budgeting, and when we come to preparing the 2010 budget, the programs there. And then I'd like you to pay special attention to the departmental summary by category. And in particular, what that does is it summarizes the entire results by category. That is 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 accounts. And there's some discussion about movement of items in between 1,000 and 2,000s. We had one event this year at the end of the year, which we did that. We have not had any other than that that I can recall since we've been here. So that gives you the information now that you're looking for the 1,000 and 2,000 accounts. It should give you that information. Preliminary results for the year ended. These are pending numbers. We have not got the final numbers from Ide Bailey. There most likely will be a few changes, but nothing that will be material. I don't know that they will even come up on the radar screen that they're that immaterial. We're going to focus primarily on the 2 major funds, the operating fund and the capital fund. Those are the two big funds that run the city and have most of the money in it. I want to give particular credit to my staff who has put this presentation together and has done a tremendous job in pulling together the year-end closing. I think if you recall, way back when I started here, we didn't see the numbers until like an August or September timeframe. The books were closed by January 23rd this year. 4 days later, this was the result. So, like I say, we've accelerated that dramatically. The first thing we want to look at is the general fund or the operating fund. Preliminary results, again, we had a number of ins and outs that you can look at the chart there. The net of it is that our revenue came in $1.6 million better than budget, than what we had budgeted. So we came out all right. Notwithstanding, we had some one-time items that went the wrong way for us, but we had some one-time items that offset it that went the right way. And we're very cognizant of that. One thing in particular that you should note, on the revenue side, we had about $1.1 million in gains in our investment portfolio, marking it to market. That thing is going to turn around one day. We've had 2 or 3 years here where we've had gains on it because of the way interest rates were moving. Interest rates are now between 0 and 0.25%. They ain't going to go down much more. And when the interest rates stop going down, the mark-to-market on the investment portfolio is going to turn around and go the other direction. So that's something that we're very cognizant of as far as dealing with the 09 year and, for that matter, for planning the 010 budget. One-time revenue boosts that we got that really helped us out this year is the bank franchise tax. We got an extra $1 million there. We've been told by the state, now this will be the third time that we've been told by the state that that's a one-time event. It turned out we were told that for 08, and we've been told for 09 that it's a one-time event. I guess we'll see once. We don't know what's really causing it, but it's gone in our favor. We got 4 extra liquor licenses this year that we sold that we hadn't planned on. We didn't think we were going to have any. Again, we talked about the market adjustments for the Treasury securities, and that's going to reverse. On the expenditure side, we had a fairly normal turnback. The turnback from the department heads seems to range between 3 to 5% annually. In doing that this year, it came out about 3.5%. And if you want to look at the details on that, it's on page 22 and pages 25 of your monthly report. So we had a relatively normal event there, though we were on the low side. The operating budget and the general fund, and what happened there. Our beginning unreserved fund balance was $37 million, or if you recall, it was 33.4% of the 08 budget. So we had a pretty good reserve there. You can see the ins and outs there of how some other transactions moved. It ended up that we have an unreserved fund balance at the end of 08 of $42.1 million, and that's an increase in the unreserved fund balance of $5.1 million. So this is the third straight year that we have run a positive addition to the reserve for loan, or Freudian slip, I'm getting back to my banking days, that we've been able to run a balance like this. We added to the, I think we went to that slide, the third 3 years consecutive now that we've done that. The excess over 25% of the policy target has planned uses, and you're going to see that later on in the presentation. We do have plans to use part of that reserve in our forecasting model and to deal with the events in the economy. Advanced planning is clearly a very important activity that we've started to engage in. And in our strategic plans and our models and that, you're going to see how we can use this reserve balance. Any questions on the operating fund?
Councilor Bedeca.
Gene, obviously you've done an excellent job, and thank you to you and your staff and the department heads. It's always nice to have that kind of response and reserves. Certainly better to have that than everybody else in the country who's facing some negatives. We do appreciate those extra works. The one question I had is on the insurance, and I just lost my place. Is that done, the health insurance fund done by the insurance actuaries, or do we do that internally?
Oh, no, that's all done with actuaries.
Okay.
Any other questions at this point for Director Rosenhorst?
Okay, we'll go on to the sales tax fund. In sales tax, and we'll talk about it a little later too, keep in mind that there are no reserves in the CIP fund or in the second penny fund, depending how you refer to it. There are none there. This year, there are movements in what happened in the sales tax. We were down $1.9 million against what we had in the budget. Our assessments were off about $500,000, and some reimbursements and interest was up about $1 million. The reimbursements are primarily federal and state money that we received that we didn't know we were going to get, and they go into that reimbursement category. The net impact, we were down about $1.4 million. At the end of the year, at the end of 2008, we had unreserved fund balances of $6.4 million, and we brought projects forward equal to $6.4 million, so there is nothing available to carry projects into 2009 off of the 2008 category. It's already been done. Things to keep in mind with the capital summary: there's no revenue sources to offset sales tax shortfalls. We have no reserves, so if the sales tax does fall short, we simply stop building whatever we're doing. This year we had a higher number of projects completed. That's one of the reasons we've burned up everything. We had a good year. If you recall, we had some discussions last year about a lot of projects hanging out there and not getting going and not getting started. We dropped that number dramatically down to that $6.2 million. So the Public Works Department in particular was very busy with a lot of contracts, and fortunately they did a good job of getting them done and completed. All remaining balances were carried forward, and there's no available balances for amendments. That's the results for 2008. Is there questions on the...
Sorry, excuse me, Councilor Bedeca.
Yes, sir.
One other question, I guess two. If you could give us a list of those projects that were put in that $6.4 million.
You have those in your...
What page is that on?
What page is it on? Sorry, I don't know.
Starting on page 8, you'll see it by departmental basis, what amounts were carried forward.
Wait, a little louder, please.
Page 8 on a departmental basis on the carry forwards.
Okay, thank you. And then, thanks, Tom. The other question I had is in reference to the lodging and entertainment tax. Ooh, it's too cold out here. The anomaly of why that's almost 4 times as much as the sales tax growth. Any explanation?
We don't have the data to explain what is going on. People are still apparently going out to restaurants and ball games and things of that nature. We'll see if that continues on through 2009. But we don't. There's just no data available to try and explain what's going on there. At least we haven't been able to identify it. It's good news that our restaurants, I guess, they're doing well. They seem to be building new ones all the time. Of course, there's ones that go down, that close up now and then, but There's a lot of restaurants in town. I forget how many we review. It's 500 and some, isn't it, at the health department?
I think that's right.
It's over 500 restaurants. When you think about it, I don't know where there's 500 restaurants in town, but apparently there is.
Yeah, I try to eat out as much as I can. I don't have time to cook. Any other questions at this point?
That's good. Keep the entertainment tax money coming in.
I will.
Councilman.
Thank you.
Impacts of a slower growth economy that we're going to have to deal with in '09 and certainly in the '10 budget. We've broken this up into a couple different categories. First is immediate impacts of revenue. We're going to have to look at the sales tax for both the operating fund and for the capital fund. We're going to be looking at somewhere around a 0 to 2% alternative. The '09 budget is actually in there at 6%, 6.5%. 6.5% is actually in at 6.5%. We're actually going to be looking at alternatives that show that in a 0 to a 2% growth rate. Other areas that where we stand a good chance of having some potential impact, bank franchise tax. There are some people out there saying that the second wave is going to come through the economy, and what that second wave is going to be is the credit cards. And if you start getting, I can tell you from my background, when you start getting layoffs, your credit card losses are going to go up. People can't pay their credit cards if they don't have a job. And that will take a while to be seen, but it will happen. And with two very large financial institutions and a third that isn't quite as large but very successful that deals in that business, and you have the bank franchise tax, we could see a significant impact there. License and permits. I've been talking about it quite a little, particularly in the '08 results of our building permits. The dollar value of the building permits were about, well, they're the third highest in the city's history. But the interesting thing, and I think very important, is the single-family building permits were down over 400 units for '08. Now, the dollar amount that was made up and balanced that out and got us up to that third category was almost the same number of units in multifamily were constructed in '08. So there's certainly something different going on there, and the value, you can build a lot of housing units, multifamily, that are going to come out being cheaper per unit than the single-family units. So it's going to be interesting to see how that follows. I would think that our building permits are going to slow down rather dramatically. One of the things that we're going to be interesting to see is the changes that we made with the arterial streets program and the platting fees, whether they come in or not. There's some interesting things that we're going to have to watch very, very carefully on a monthly basis, just to make sure that we don't get caught with standing flat-footed when something really happens. Immediate impacts, slower growth of the economy, positive impacts, like inflation should be down. Inflation right now is not really a matter of concern in the economy, really. And like fuel, we had substantial saves in fuel in '08, and we've already got contracts going in '09, and they're coming in. The contracts are coming in substantially under what we have in the budget. Most likely, we should get some construction bids that will be a lot more competitive. We're thinking the contractors are going to be hungry, although when the stimulus package comes through, that may take care of a lot of that too. We'll just have to wait and see. Higher demand for certain services that we might have. Things like people, instead of taking vacations and going out of town and that, they'll spend more time at our parks. Sally has had a significant increase in participation in the library already. And I guess that is a characteristic of libraries. It's not unusual. When you have a downturn, the use of the library goes up. our health department. You could have more people that would fall in the category that would need the services of the health department. Slower economy. One of the things that will happen is most likely our property tax increase and growth in that will slow down. There's about a 2-year delay on that. So right now in 09, you're seeing the benefit of construction and building permits in 07. So there's a 2-year delay when we actually see that money. That 2-year delay can change, but it will change 2 years on the end. And so what would happen is we would have a downturn, the economy turns up and you get a lot of building going on, and we're not getting the property tax in with it yet, so it could cause us some issues with streets, and we'll be very cognizant of that. So we've got to keep in mind that there's that 2-year horizon out there. When things start to reinflate, we're going to be kind of up against the wall there. And there's could be less demand for our infrastructure. I was talking about arterial streets. If we're not building houses, we don't need to have as many streets. You can build the same number of multifamily housing, but that creates an entirely different set of issues for streets as opposed to a single-family housing units. The key that we're working on is in the contingency plan is being prepared, doing some good planning, and looking at our priorities and coming back again to prepare to deal with our priorities as they change, as the economy changes. There's 2 very different contingency plans that we've got that we've modeled. Operating contingency, that's the day-to-day stuff. Again, that's one model that we got, and then the capital contingency, and they do work differently. In the preparing for the potential below-budget revenues in 2009, we're planning for a potential shortfall of $5 to $6 million. That includes the sales tax running at about a 2% growth rate, and a reduction in other revenues such as licenses, permits, bank franchise tax, et cetera, that we were considering in our contingency plan. In order to, we'll bring up a discussion a little later on. We actually really, it would really be important that we get about 1.5% in 09 and 1.5% in 010 actual growth in sales tax. If that number doesn't come in at least at that number, that's going to cause us to have to make some different moves. The first line of defense that we've got in dealing with a decrease in revenue. First thing is identify 4 points. We have already done this. We've identified 4.5% in expenditure savings, and where it really there's 2 pieces to it. We did a normal personnel budget of about $2.4 million as a turnback. We got some fuel savings in there of $500,000, and then we got 2.1% in total budget. That the piece that we're dealing with in the personnel savings, fuel savings, things like that have been identified, but if they're actually, there's another 2% that they're actually holding back that we're not tracking that closely. We're going to just have to track with them periodically during the coming year to see how things are going, if they're making their own deal. So at a city level, administration level, we've got this 2% that we've more or less got in the bank, and we can watch that. We've got another 2.5% that the department heads are going to have to manage. The department heads have identified that 2.5%. We've just not asked them to submit that necessarily to us. We have seen some of them, but the key is that they understand that they need to reduce their budget by 2.5% in addition to the ones that we've seen from the city level. The key in doing this is that we avoid unintended consequences. We don't want to get in a situation where we can't meet particular services. We don't want to get into a situation where we're getting into a lot of deferred maintenance, because that's going to cost you more when you do fix it then. And also, the compounded slower growth can have an impact on our city from the standpoint that it may not be as attractive to people to come here as it has been in the past, because we weren't able to provide the services that we could that we have. A real point you need to keep in mind, and I don't want anyone to be misinformed. 09 and 10, these things that we're talking about are not painless. We don't have to engage in any knee-jerk reactions or anything like that, but these will hurt. But the thing is, what we've done is we've been able to develop a plan that is well thought out, a solid plan that we can deal with it in a professional manner and in a timely manner, so that we keep it as painless as possible.
Director Rollenhorst?
Yes.
A constituent asked me over the weekend, I think he'd read some of your helpful comments in the newest issue of Sioux Falls Business Journal article about our contingency planning at, this number, and he asked me if in fact the city was going to consider even having a contingency plan for no growth at all in the sales tax, as opposed to just cutting it back.
Well, as I said, we've got the sales tax in at a 0 to 2% growth rate. Actually,
Okay.
1.5 is the number. So we haven't really done anything at the actual zero level.
Okay, in fact, yes. In fact, thank you for helping me on that. In fact, you know what? I think, it's what he asked me was minus as opposed to 0. I'm sorry, I didn't ask that correctly.
Okay.
Okay.
Our second line of defense, we after looking at the expense side of things, is to modify the budget growth. We'd have to be slowing the budget down in future years, and we're talking about going out into 2010 and 2011, and we're going to have, and I'll show you a chart here in just a minute that'll show you how that works. One of the big things we're going to have to do is pay attention to capital improvements. So what we spend in the CIP, we're going to have to be careful as to what that's going to do to us in future budgets. We don't want to put things in the CIP and build something and then run into a situation that we can't maintain it, operate it, whatever the deal is with the CIP project. That's going to be a big thing that we're going to have to continually review, and we're going to have to review our staffing plans on a continual basis. The one thing that our goal is, and nowhere in our contingencies are there any plans for any kind of layoffs or anything like that. That's just not part of our planning. We don't think we have to do that if we behave in a reasonable manner. Our third line of defense is the unreserved fund balance. We have identified in a chart I'll show you. We've used some unobligated fund balance in there, and we may have to modify the future growth to maintain an equilibrium between what our revenue is and what our expenses, our outgo is. Service levels, adequate reserves, things like that. There may be some changes that we'll have to make, and again, it's not without pain, but it's not something that is totally unreasonable. The following graphics are going to show you is a good example of how the city uses the forecasting model to prepare, plan, and prioritize. And this review, we have to do this in a time context. This is a point in time today. 30 days from now, this may look different if we gain additional information about the economy and what it's doing. The first chart that you see is the unreserved fund balance, and this was our original 2009 budget forecast, and this is where we're going out 5 years, where we have some pretty good numbers, and then even out to 10 years, where of course when you're starting to get out 10 years, it gets a little more uncertain of our what the results are. But you can see the 25% policy target And if we could live with our 09 budget as is, that we'd get out to 2015 before we'd really have to start dealing with the 25%. Look at the next chart. In this one, what we've done is we've not revised any revenue impacts. This is strictly the we've not revisited the revenue, I should say. And what's going to happen, you can see, is in 2010, we crossed the line already with our revenue falling like that and not having done anything in the expense side of the transaction. And what it deals with is a growth rate out in 09 and 010 of about 1.5% per year. And then it goes back up to 6%, but it still gets us in that wide category. If you look at the next chart, what we've done there, we've revised our revenues and our expense forecast, both. Now, we're only dealing, keep in mind, with two variables really here that we're dealing with. So there's going to be a lot of other variables that are going to be moving around that will impact this, but this gives us a good thumbnail of where to look at. And you can see what happens with the blue line. We get out to 2012, we drop below the 25%, but then it turns around and comes back up and comes back across the policy line at 2017. But this dip in the blue line results in the use of unobligated fund balance, our reserves. And we've got, that's what I was talking about earlier, that we have plans on how to spend that, and we would be using some of those reserves at this point. The general capital contingencies, the immediate impact of expenditures, the city does not have any general capital fund reserves. Reductions in revenue result in reductions in spending. When we run out of money, we will just stop whatever we're doing. Obviously, it won't be quite. Hopefully we would do that in an orderly manner and see this coming ahead of time. We would be reprioritizing continually. That's one of the things that we think is going to take a lot of time, particularly this year, as we see what's going on in the economy, as we see what the sales tax does. We'll see how we can reprioritize and what we can get done and what we can't get done. We are suspending projects. That would be one of the key ways we would deal with it. As I said before, there's no unobligated fund balance. We've identified 2009 and 2010 project suspensions that we just put off and delay. In 2009, we've got $4.6 million in projects identified that would be delayed. And in 2010, we've got $6.4 million that we've got delayed. And those numbers will change as we understand more about the economy, as we see what's coming in sales tax. So they're just being held out there in abeyance. 2010 to 2014, depending on what happens in the next 2 years, we're going to have to do some priorities reevaluation in the out years. Contingency plans, there's strategic planning. We're looking at a 5-year horizon. We think we've got a good handle on it. The budget now, the budgeting process is really more than a 1-year process now. It just doesn't work to do it, we don't think, very effectively at a 1-year time frame. Although we deal with a 1-year budget, we really are looking at a 5-year budget. And we have some good long-term forecasting, we think, right now to help us do that. Working with the plans and the forecasts that we've got, we're going to identify opportunities, or we have already, for savings and reductions. We prioritized, suspended some lower priority projects. We're going to maintain a balance between years, between the 2009 and 2010. We don't want something come up really hard to bite us, and so we're going to be watching that. And then we're going to, in phase 3, judiciously use the unobligated fund balance to get us through the next 2 years and see where we're at. The key we don't want to do is burn up that unreserved fund balance. We can't do that. If you do, you're going to end up paying for it in the out year somewhere along the way. So, but we do have some planned uses for it. So the bottom line is we're going to stay focused. We want to continue to deliver our effective services efficiently. We're going to have a lot of preparation, a lot of planning, and a lot of prioritizing going on over the next year or so.
Councilor Benega?
Gene, thank you for the planning process that you've gone through and the contingency plans. One of my questions is when you, for my analogy, if you will, on page 12, when the bottom of the boat hits below the 25% of the reserve account,
Yep.
and it gets back to above that in 2017, what kind of sales tax growth are you using to get it above?
This contemplates a sales tax growth back in 2012 of being back up to the 6.5% range.
Okay. But for the 2 years, you're using 1.5. Okay.
Right.
Thank you.
Councilor Brown?
Gene, first of all, I think that what's made Sioux Falls successful is the planning, and you guys have demonstrated that today very much. It's a pretty good story you're telling here that other cities have not had the opportunity to tell. We're in the black, putting $5 million in savings and putting together a contingency plan. So thank you to you and your staff. It's very positive.
Thank you.
My question is, are there critical times in this calendar year that you're going to be watching very closely if you're looking into your crystal ball when things need to turn around in order to avoid that pain that you were talking about?
We're just going to have to watch the trends. And when you say critical times, I don't know that I can say a critical time. I guess one thing that's going to be critical is to see now in February, we're going to get the Christmas sales in and see what that looked like. If that was in the tank, you know, that's a big message because that's a big pile of money that comes in right up front. We're going to have to be watching the building permits, I think, very closely because that bites us in the out years. If we don't get the building permits in, if the housing really slows down, that's going to be an issue, but we've got some time to deal with it. You know, as I understand it right now, there's something like 9 months worth of housing sales on the market in Sioux Falls, which is normally it's around 6 months, something like that. So that there's clearly some slowdown going on, and we're just going to have to watch all of those very carefully. But I don't know if I can give you any real milestones as much as watching trends. And the thing we don't want to do is just get into a knee-jerk reaction on 1 month's activity. So as we see things changing, we will start to bend slowly towards it, but we're not going to be jumping into anything feet first without having at least some idea of where the trend is going.
Thank you.
Director Rolenhorst, I know that we don't know for sure, but I keep wondering myself as far as our sales tax situation. I'm always curious, and I know you don't have an answer to this. You couldn't possibly, but I just always wonder how much catalog sales are really affecting us. Just because I think in cold weather, cold climate, you know, it just seems like at our house we get more and more catalogs each month, each year. You know, and people are ordering over the internet and calling the 800 number 24 hours a day. And do the financial experts in South Dakota, including yourself, think that is a very much a significant factor, or?
I don't know. I haven't heard a lot. You know, you do hear some people think it's really nasty, and others that think it's not so nasty. I think my solution to it is let's get a store in here that if they're selling goods into South Dakota, let's get a store in here from that operation, and we'll take care of the sales tax problem that way. Mm-hmm. It was a major upset to me when Cabela's moved in.
Mm-hmm.
I think it does have a little impact. And, the other thing, excuse me, on the second penny, what we can do is when we start seeing the bids come in, we'll have an idea if they're favorable or not, as far as some of the bids. So looking at all those things to see how competitive it is out there and what they're doing, all areas we'll be watching as we move through.
Any other questions or comments by the other city councilors? Councilor Stagers?
Yes. Gene, we have 25 new positions in this year's budget. when it comes to taking a look at those, would those be in the first line of defense or second line of defense?
Well, those would, we've got those in the plan, and right now, the plan is that those 25 will come on board. We don't have to get into a situation where we have to stop hiring people at this point. We don't see that as being a necessity. 2010 could be, but in 09 for this year, we'll be steady as she goes with the staffing.
Okay. Also, another question I have is in regard to the bonding for the levies. That's $38 million, is that right?
$38 million plus issuance costs, including reserves. The actual number of bonds that will be issued will be about $42 million.
Okay, because I thought the costs were already in the $38 million, but they're not, huh? So actually the bond is going to be for $42 million?
It'll be $42 million. Keep in mind what
Okay.
happens is we have to stick a bunch of reserves out there that are not used for the actual construction, and we get that money back on the end. It sits in the trust department.
Sure.
One thing I should remind you of and give you an update on that, the RFPs are out now. If you want to look at the RFPs, they're on the internet. Did you see them or something? Or?
No.
They're on the internet, so you can look at the RFPs. I would encourage you to read them. They're not, one's about 6 or 7 pages long, and one's about I think it's 14 or 15 pages long, but it's readable. So I'd recommend you take a look-see at that and see where we're going. We've already gotten a couple of inquiries today already on them. So and our financial advisor, PFM, actually sent it out. There's a list of about 15 or 16 entities that they regularly deal with, and they know that they engage in a certain kind of activity in today's market. And so those were sent out directly to people to get as many as we can to give us a deal, see what we can get.
To continue, so let me just clarify once again so I get it straight in my mind. So we're actually bonding for $42 million.
Right.
Okay. Now, we have the Congress, of course, talking about a stimulus package and all this, and everybody's hoping, that they're going to get some of the stimulus package, including here in Sioux Falls. We're hoping that we're going to get some of that for the levies and so forth. Now, if we go ahead and do the bond for $42 million, and then we get very fortunate and we get the federal government saying, hey, we're going to actually pay for all this now. Okay, we've already taken the bond out, and then we're going to get the money from the stimulus, let's suppose this year. Okay, now what's going to happen to the money that we've borrowed? Now we can pay off, I think, half because we're having the variable interest rate, but the other half, what happens to that?
Actually, what our financial advisor is suggesting to us at this point, we're going to probably only do 2 issues to start with. One will be the issue to cover the bridge.
Oh, okay.
And the rest will be in a floating rate, variable rate transactions, probably $30 million in floating rate. We can leave that out there for a month or 2 months or 3 months. If we get some money in, we can pay that down.
Okay.
And until we know more about the stimulus package that President Obama is getting through Congress right now, we're probably going to do that. No final decisions have been made. The alternative is, as you're correct in that we started with the idea of $15 million in a variable rate, and then whatever the difference, $13 million or something like that in a 10-year bond with a 5-year call. Well, that 10-year bond with a 5-year call right now, we don't have that in the program today,
Okay.
but that can change.
Okay.
I hope we have the problem that you're discussing. That
Yeah.
2, 3, 4 months down the road, we know that the Corps of Engineers are going to come through and just send us a check, and that would be great.
And then also one other quick question about the capital improvement program. There's, like you indicated, $4.6 million targeted for 2009 for possible suspension, $6.4 million targeted for 2010 for possible suspension. Does any of that include projects for the upcoming quality of life bond in the fall, like for the football fields and for the zoo and things like that, is being suspended?
I don't have that list with me of exactly what's out there. I don't recall that that's part of that any of those are out there. I don't think so.
Okay.
Any other questions for our finance director? Okay, I'd like to echo the other comments that have been made tonight. Again, we thank you.
Gene, you might want to just mention we got the RFP out there too for the arena so that they know what the time frame is on that.
Okay, the arena's out there, and I think that's on the internet also.
The date is we're going to try to have those back. What's the date we're trying to have those back?
I don't know what the arena is. That the bonds, our RFPs for the bonds are due back February 13th. The 16th is a holiday. It's a Monday. The 17th, we'll start going through those. We're going to put together a little committee to review the RFPs and see which one we want to work with to get this thing actually done by the second week in March.
Thank you very much, Director Roanhorst, and your staff, capable staff, for being with us today and bringing us such great news.
Thank you.
Anything else before we adjourn from our informational? Okay, I'll just consider our meeting over for today, and we'll see you at 7 o'clock tonight.
Thank you.